Sports is sponsored by Strong.
And Rypien fading back to pass here, has plenty of time. Deep down the middle of the field, open receiver caught, touchdown, Broncos!
It was one of those games. Nothing worked. Nothing went right. Brett Rypien to Chaz Anderson. 54-yard touchdown early first quarter, second longest scoring play versus UH this season. And that was just the start of the onslaught.
That was a really good throw. That's what that kid's capable of doing. I didn't know if he was capable of doing that going in, and we tried to get after him and not allow him to have time, but he put that ball right where it needed to be.
That was a 24-yard gain. They stay on the ground, and McNichols has a path to the end zone. Touchdown, Boise State.
If you can imagine, it was worse for the UH football team on offense. I'm Robert Kikaula. This is Inside Access here in OC Sports. Sometimes, a lot of times, numbers, statistics don't tell the whole story. This is not one of those times. Hawaii surrendered a season-high 554 yards total offense to Boise State and 35 points in the second quarter alone, equaling what Fresno State did to UH in 2004, most since the Broncos hung 38 on Hawaii in that same season.
Rypien has time. He'll go for the end zone. Nothing tricky there. Spurback is open. He got the foot down. Touchdown!
From the get-go, Rainbow Warriors sputtered on offense. Max Wittek threw the first of his 2 interceptions before completing his first pass of the game. And maybe their best positive play of the first half was Wittek getting 12 yards after the ball was jarred loose by Kamale Correa. It was that kind of night. Nothing worked.
I thought the plan was good. We had some guys open. We had, I thought our offensive line actually played really well. We gave up 1 sack. I thought we did some good things in the game, but again, when you go into a place like Boise State, who has won 103 games in the last 10 years, you have to bring your A game, and we didn't do that.
10 offensive possessions in the first half for UH, 6 punts, 2 turnovers. Twice they lost it on downs. Nothing worked. Third time, the Rainbow Warriors were shut out in 2015. Now, the last time it happened was back in 1966. Last time it happened in back-to-back games was 1988. Arkansas State and SMU on the same date. Go figure. UH football teams traveled over 23,000 miles so far this season and scored 0 points. Lots to talk about. This is Inside Access here in OC Sports. Final score, Hawaii at Boise State, 55-0. It was all but said and done at halftime, 49-0. Broncos calling off the Dogs after intermission. Hawaii now 2-3 overall, 0-1 in the Mountain West Conference. Welcome to Inside Access. I'm Robert Kikaula with Nate Ilawa, Stephen Tsai, my broadcast partner Rich Miano. Let's go from Rich all the way down. Your reaction to 55-0.
It was shocking. I mean, watching that game was so hard, Robert, because you expect them to get on track offensively. You had so much hope in what the defense has done prior to this game, not giving up big plays. And to watch that, I actually left to go watch the Kahuku Waianae game because I couldn't stomach the second half.
Stephen Tsai, the chunk plays given up.
Yeah, they just gave up way too many big plays, and it fell for a lot of different things. But the thing with Boise is they're the perfect criminals because you just can't go what they did in the past. You can study everything that they do in the past, and they'll come with new things for the whole game. So you kind of like have to think like they do. You have to, I don't know, Hannibal Lecter it, whatever that Jodie Foster character is. You got to profile because you have to think like they do. And they're hard to think like them because they are so creative.
Perfect criminals. Nate.
It was tough. I was at my daughter's birthday party, and we had the game on, so I couldn't listen to but I could see.
Way to go, Dad.
What was going on.
So you're there, and I'm watching it. I have to watch
I'm watching the game, and it was tough, and you know, much to what, you know, Steven's talking about, once you thought you shored up something, there was something else that was leaking. You know, once you plug this, but that's Boise. You know, I've experienced it firsthand, and, you know, it's just one of those things that you just got to hope for the best the next time.
You know, you start to think Boise State is probably a Hail Mary away from being a top 15, top 10 football team. That loss to BYU probably prevents them from being a top 15 team. Probably not as talented as Ohio State or Wisconsin, but for all intents and purposes, maybe a better football team than either the Badgers or the Buckeyes. Who knows?
Well, you scout against them. Do you buy that stuff that they're not as talented? I think they have a lot of talent, and they pretend they don't have a lot of talent.
Well, maybe not as much athletes.
Well, Robert, people forget years ago they had the most players at the combine. They had like second or third most players drafted. And when you look at that roster, the amount of athletes in terms of speed that they have, I think is pretty comparable. And I think when you look at cost of living allowance, their facilities, all the things that they want to be is they want to be in the autonomous five, so to speak. They want to be a big-time player, and they're not far away, and they probably should be in the Pac-12 or the Big Ten.
You look at stipend.
Yes.
They're giving, what, $5,100?
Yes.
To their student athletes?
Especially when it's Boise and you can live there for, I don't know what.
Walmart.
Yes.
Now, you start to try and pick apart the game. You look at the game film. It was one of those games. You can throw everything out the window. You put the plays up against the dartboard. You throw darts at them. Who knows? It was one of those games. Here's a play that's probably indicative of how things went. UH on defense held them. They go for a field goal, does Boise State. UH gets called for jumping offside, and what it does is gives the Broncos another opportunity on offense. And you give Boise State a chance. Because you jump offside on special teams and give this team a second chance, here's what happens.
Well, Rippon fake falling down. Look how open he is. Touchdown, Boise. Oh, brother, wide open, Holden Huff. What a fake.
The freshman quarterback, Brett Rippon, 24-yard touchdown to Holden Huff. I don't know what you call that. Fake fumble, whatever. But oh boy, wide open off an error on a special teams play. A freshman quarterback, 5'11", 196 pounds, Brett Rippon, 19 of 25, 271 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. At halftime, he already had the 3 touchdowns, 232 yards. Your thoughts of a freshman QB, Coach Miano?
It kind of is scarily reminiscent of a young Kellen Moore, who started as a freshman, who was a coach's son. This guy's the nephew of Mark Rippon. So obviously, when you look at how he controls his eyes and moves secondaries, you look at the trajectory of the deep ball, you look at the play pass to hold the linebackers, and he's looking the free safety off right here, and he throws the post behind the free safety. You would swear this guy is a fifth-year senior. So very impressive to watch the scheme led by a guy who's calm, cool, and collective.
Nate, your thoughts? He's a kid making all the big plays.
Well, I mean, I think that's a credit to Boise, you know, and their program. I mean, we kind of touched on comparing them to Ohio State and Wisconsin. I think they're better as a team as far as who they know, them knowing who they are. I don't think Ohio State knows who they are yet. Wisconsin has had some rough time. They had a loss this past week. But I think Boise State as a system, they know exactly what they are. And it's kind of plugging in the guys and that want to play and executing. And I think he did a great job of coming in, making the plays. Wasn't trying to win the game. He was just doing his job, as well as having McNichols and them guys take care of business on the run. But just to note on that play, they tried that on us.
2004. I was a DB coach, and thank God they dropped that one because he was just as open as he was on this one. So they have 50 of them, Nate. 50 trick plays. You don't know which ones they're going to dial up.
Live and die by the blitz. Sometimes you're going to put pressure on the quarterback, and sometimes you're going to get beat backside.
But they're hard to get to, too. They maximum protect. They do a bunch of things. The guys move around, and you can't blitz them too much because they've got that great running back. And they're just a really good team and a well-schemed team. And they're just tough to beat, especially at home.
Yeah, nephew, like as you mentioned, of a Super Bowl winning quarterback in Mark Rypien. And it's not just the quarterback. In that backfield is a sophomore running back in Jeremy McNichols, who leads the country, who now has 12 touchdowns.
And pick them apart. See Boise in the red zone, what they've been able to do, and there is the ground that we talked about. McNichols made it! What a run! Touchdown!
Nate, McNichols got game.
He does, and it really stands out. I mean, obviously we're talking about these two guys, a freshman and a sophomore, so these guys are going to be around for a little bit longer. But I thought he had great vision. I mean, of course the blocking scheme is there, but he runs hard. What I always feel a great running back has is the ability to constantly run hard, no matter how many opposite colored jerseys that are in front of them. And he obviously, you see here making plays out of the backfield, running hard, putting his head down and trying to get extra yardage. So I mean, he's just a hard-nosed running back, and it's a guy that he's out there trying to make plays. He's mentioned 12 touchdowns. He wants to score. He wants to be better each and every day.
20 carries, 117 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5.4 yards per touch. That's a good number. 12 touchdowns, pretty impressive.
Yeah, he's outstanding. And it goes back to what Steven was talking about in terms of the good to great philosophy. They get the right guys on the bus, players and coaches. And then when a head coach leaves, like Chris Peterson or Dan Hawkins, they just promote the assistants, the coordinators. They bring them back from wherever they went and coached at. And this is a team that is consistently good, Robert, that's always challenging for championship bowl games. And it's something that you need to analyze and figure out how they do it. Bronco culture is alive and well.
More inside access here at OC Sports when we come back. Welcome back to Inside Access here on OC Sports. It may be the lyrics to a country song, On Swollen Knee. Hawaii quarterback Max Wittek struggled. 7 for 24, 66 yards, 2 INT. And you see the knee. He struggled. Absolutely no question. During the second half, when he was replaced by Hawaii's Ikaika Uzi, you see the knee there. And it did not look pretty. And it's not just the quarterback. Keelan Nivaliko, Quinton Pedroza, Gerald Garcia Williams, Morrell Jackson. There's a bunch of players injured. Benny Fonua at linebacker. Maybe the biggest concern moving forward for the Hawaii football team, injuries. How big a concern is that?
That is big because I think everybody said they had to bob and weave to get through the first 5 games because those were going to be the tough 3 on the road. If they came out 2-3, that was actually going to be a good goal. But they didn't bob and weave enough, and they got hit around a few times. And I think it's going to have an impact the rest of the season because you really need Wittek. He's probably your best quarterback out there. They drained his knee last week and it refilled. And so, I mean, that could be troublesome for a while.
Hey, it's going to be throughout the week we're going to find out if Max Wittek will be good to go. Again, he was replaced by Ikaika Uzi. The last snap of the first half, the entire second half. Second biggest concern, I know it's going to get this guy riled up. Turnovers. 4 committed by UH, 0 in return. It's a big number.
Yeah, actually, when you talk about interceptions, Robert, as a former coach and player, and Nate will agree with me, hopefully. Who knows what Nate's going to think. But I would think also fourth down conversions. They were 0 for 4. You don't exchange field positions. There was also a fumble. So it's really 9 times that you're giving this explosive team, who was the best team that they've played in terms of overall passing and running the football, the opportunity to shoot more shots on your goal, and they capitalized. So, Robert, turnovers, that's everything in football. They didn't take it away on defense, and they gave it away on offense. You're not going to win.
Turnovers and penalties, because they had an interception that got taken back, and again, that fake fumble thing was set by a penalty.
Now, speaking of the interceptions, Dante Dion got one early, and then Darian Thompson got one later. Both these guys have 17 career interceptions. The Mountain West record is 18 by Eric Weddle of Utah. That's impressive numbers. You're a numbers guy. You're a record guy. 18 is huge.
It is. That's amazing. I didn't even know that. Is that just Weddle by himself?
Weddle by himself has 18,
Well,
and
we know
both
him.
those guys
He's an all-pro guy.
have
so
17.
That goes to show for itself.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys taking the ball away is a must. And I agree with, what Rich is saying. You have to be able to take the ball away, especially when you're playing such a good team or teams, in this standpoint for Hawaii. And the injuries, just to touch on that a little bit as well, that kind of helps as well. As far as you taking the ball away, you can get through all the nicks and bruises, and throughout a game and things like that. And then losses don't help at all when you're getting banged up throughout a tough season. You got to try to do what you got to do to win the games. And I think the biggest part would be getting turnovers.
As Stephen mentioned, Hawaii did get the one interception, but it got taken off the board. And the interception that they did get was by Castro. Castro gets the INT. It gets negated because of a roughing the passer penalty against Hawaii defensive lineman Corey Rasmussen, who's been playing very well this season.
Right, but that was a questionable penalty.
Yeah.
But when you're playing the way you're playing on the road, you're not going to get those. You're not going to get the call. So it's one of those things you've got to earn the.
And this may have been the biggest hit of this game in lovely Idaho on that unique looking field.
And when you see this hit, you think about GT DiMarte. Is that launching? Is that hits to the head? Because normally that type of impact draws a flag. But again, Boise did everything correctly. They got all the breaks, whatever else, and that's why the score was what it is.
Yeah, Dejon Butler got his bell rung on that play. More Inside Access here in OC Sports when we come back.
Inside Access on OC Sports is sponsored by Strong.
Welcome back to Inside Access here on OC Sports. Remember I said numbers sometimes don't tell the whole story? The other side to the story is sometimes it does. Hawaii ranks now 127th in the country in scoring offense. That's dead last. That's 15 points per game. 115th in the country out of 127 FBS teams in turnover margin at -7. Total offense, 127 at 271.4 yards per game. On defense, the numbers look like this. 33.6 points per game is allowed. That ranks 100th in the country. 207.6 yards per game in passing, ranks 54th. And third down defense, 40%, ranks 84th in the country. Rich, I want to start with you. What numbers jump out and bite you the worst?
Well, I still think there's gold at the end of the proverbial rainbow, but what jumps out at me is always turnovers. But when you look at offensively being last in the nation in scoring, that's the most important stat offensively, Robert. So, that being said, those three teams that they played, Ohio State, Wisconsin, and Boise, are three of the best defenses in the country, top 10 type of defenses. It'll get better.
Yeah. And all those teams rank in the top 11, 12 defenses in the country. Steven Sutton, which numbers jump out?
Well, the number that jumps out is the number that's not on there, time of possession. The offense is only gaining 20-something minutes a game, and you can't win that way when the other team's got the ball twice as long.
Well, you can win that way if you're scoring.
Yes.
We've seen that before by stuff.
Not when you're
Yeah.
127th.
Yeah. Nate?
I think it's a mixture of all that. I mean, that was a great point Stephen brings up with the time of possession, because not only are you not getting the job done in scoring, but then your defense is out there a lot longer, and it puts more pressure on them to get things done. And obviously from the numbers that you're seeing, they're not getting off the field enough, as well, whether it's early or late in the games. So I think it's just a mixture of all these things. They got to rely on each other, and right now they're not.
When you guys played, you lost every game time of possession, but you guys scored.
We did, and I think it was simply, we keep going back to the fact of the type of program that we had that was instilled in us from, over a year's time. You could say it was a system, and you can plug whoever in. But for the most part, I thought, we all had the same goal in mind as far as scoring, and from the previous teams that we had studied and came after, that was the goal, and we went and worked towards doing that. And then I think Hawaii can still do the same. It's just
this is magnified because Hawaii's actually trying to play a ball control game and not controlling it enough.
Hey, Robert, I think it's the lack of identity. Are they a tempo offense? Are they trying to do ball control? Are they trying to establish the run? What is it? Right now, it's a lack of identity.
Well, I think they want to be tempo.
Yes.
It's hard right now to be tempo if you cannot pitch and catch.
Downs. Yes.
You got to be able to pitch and catch.
I agree.
To be tempo. And you keep thinking, what comes to my mind is Vince Lombardi. It's not whether you get knocked down. It's whether you can get back up. We're going to find out this week, next week, the next 8 weeks, if they can get back up. Let's lighten the mood up a little bit through Sai's eyes. Just back from Boise. Through Steven Sai's eyes.
Nowhere else do they let me show my vacation pictures.
No.
Nobody else.
Not even your family wants to see.
They don't want to see that kind of stuff. But
Peter Lick of sports photography.
That's why I joined Facebook, so people can, be abused by this.
Social
media. If you're
media's
gonna look me up from high school, you got to see my pictures.
Let's see what
Sometimes
you
in slow-mo.
saw this week on your lovely trip. What, did you get bumped up to first class?
Yes, I did.
That's a travesty.
Wait. The trip up to Boise, you didn't get bumped up.
No, but look at that, and I'm bumped by John Venerian. How can I be passed? I've got TSA in my name. Do we not help each other out?
You're the first alternate. The TSA guy.
I'm the guy with the nose against the glass. And it's
Put Max Whittick in first class, not Steven Sai.
You didn't get bumped up to first class. And look at the guy at number 5. I want you to read the name at number 5. He didn't get bumped up. And once in Boise, it's all hands on deck.
Yes, and as you notice, that's Chris Naioli right in the middle, lifting everything.
Well, offensive line coach helping the guys unload the luggage.
Okay, that's the thing.
That.
When I travel, I always think, oh, my bag's so heavy, and I put it on there, and I don't know if I can make the 50-pound limit, and it turns out the bag's only like 25 pounds.
Robert,
I tried to help. You need Chris Naioli to move.
Clear example of discrepancy in budget. I guarantee the Boise State coach is on unloading the equipment.
I want Chris Naioli moving my bags. He can anytime. He can't even lift your own bag, can he?
I do carry a lot of baggage.
Okay.
Mostly under my eyes.
And then they get to the Albertson Field, and Hawaii players get to ooh and awe at probably the most unique field in all of college.
Well, what's interesting about this, too, is that Solomon posed not knowing that's how Kennedy posed. So that's how in sync this team is, that they make big body.
And as expected,
yes.
A bunch of NFL scouts come to see the process, see the practice.
They were looking at Whittick, Pedroja. They're looking at a lot of guys who, and also Gerald Garcia-Williams. That's another guy really they have on the radar for next year.
And there's Steven's diet.
Yes.
Pepper jerky, gluten-free.
It's elk, and it's gluten-free. I don't even know what gluten is, but apparently elks don't have it.
That's an oxymoron. Can you have that be gluten-free? Apparently.
And then on Steven's trip back home, is that your brother?
Well, yeah, brother from another mother. Look at that. I mean,
he has the same forehead as you.
I do not know. All I know is at my age, I'm scared of latex gloves.
And the same haircut.
That's a direct descendant.
This week? See, I've got the comb over.
That's a TSAI.
He's got the comb back. And that's why I don't get upgraded.
The comb over.
Can you dance like that?
Oh, you got
it. As we laugh at Steven Sai's dance moves, we want to let you listen to Hawaii head coach Norm Chow, one-on-one with Inside Access here in OC Sports. Boise State is probably a Hail Mary away from being one of the top 10 teams in the country. How do the Broncos measure up against Wisconsin, against Ohio State that you had on your schedule?
Well, I think, Robert, that they're every bit as good. What's impressive about Boise is their football team. You know, they don't have that one wow factor, but they sure play well. They play well together. They play well at home. Their home record was some crazy 100 and something and 2 or 3 losses. But, you know, I think we're most disappointed because we didn't play well. We you know, lacked a little bit of discipline maybe, had a couple too many penalties. But, you know, we have to regroup and we just have to keep going. And I feel good about our young people. And we're going to turn this thing going. And we're going to get this thing going.
Recovery after 55-0. Is it the same after 14-10?
No question about it. No question. And it doesn't look good, obviously, 55, but a loss is a loss. If you lose by 1 or you lose by 50, and we've certainly been on both sides of that many, many times. It's just a matter of regrouping. We got back together this morning, and our players are ready to go. You know, it takes a while to heal your wounds, but we can't keep living in the past. We have to move on.
Boise State seems to be cream of the crop in the Mountain West Conference. San Diego State gets by Fresno State 21-7. Seems it's up for grabs the rest of across the board.
Well, I think the West Side obviously is a little different. I challenged our players after the game that we need to be back here in 9 weeks or whatever, 10 weeks. We know now what it takes. Without question, Boise State's the class. They're the barrier. They set the standard, and rightfully so. They deserve all the credit they get.
So the march to get back to Boise starts against the Aztecs this week. Good luck against San Diego State.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you. We're looking forward to it.
Each week on Inside Access, we take a walk on the dark side and we talk NFL, fantasy football. Let's start late night, Sunday night. If I had a friend who say was a bookie, and late Sunday night I said, buddy, Saints, it would have been a good night, right? Mm-hmm. Derek Honma from OC Sports, our fantasy guru. Saints looked good last night.
They did. Drew Brees had a really good game, but we'll start off with this animated GIF that we found online. But it's for all the CJ Spiller owners out there, and kind of have a good laugh. And the whole game, CJ Spiller, nope. And then, yep, that's right. That's right. Take it to the house, overtime.
CJ didn't do anything until OT.
Nothing at all, but that's all you needed. Save Drew Brees' fantasy value and definitely put some fantasy value for CJ Spiller, but not a guy that you want to start, not at all.
Who were the studs in the world of fantasy football over the weekend?
I think we're going to have to go with Devonta Freeman, and the guy has been an absolute beast over a 2-week period. I mean, RB1 status, no doubt. Tevin Coleman's supposed to be coming back this week possibly, but it's not going to be a 50-50 split. You're looking at more of a 70-30. This guy is going to carry the rock, and gone are the days of the Atlanta Falcons not having a good run game. I mean, no more Michael Turner. It's all about Freeman, and they're giving him the rock. He's not only doing it on the rushing standpoint, but he's catching passes too. I mean, 5 receptions, 81 yards, 14 rushes, 68 yards. I mean, the guy is a PPR monster. So 32 fantasy points, over 69 fantasy points over a 2-game period. And our duds, I mean, ultimately, we go back to C.J. Anderson and the Bronco offense. Manning does not look good, and it's affecting C.J. Anderson. There's maybe a toe injury, but we just got word this morning that Kubiak is possibly looking to make it more of a 50-50 split and give Hillman more carries. So if you're an Anderson owner, you drafted him in the first round, I think what you got to do is you just got to sit on him, put him on the bench, and find a time when you can slot him in, and hopefully the season turns around for him. Surprises, Todd Gurley. Definitely the running back out of Georgia. Waiting for him to get healthy, the ACL recovery and everything, and the guy exploded yesterday. 146 yards rushing, 2 receptions, 15 yards. He'll have ups and down weeks, but definitely a guy that you can watch.
Now, of course, he plays for the St. Louis Rams.
Yep.
Waiver wire. You mentioned Hillman. Hillman might be a guy people want to pick up in the world of fantasy football.
I think so, definitely. Definitely Hillman's a guy you got to target. I think especially with that news dropping down this morning with Kubiak saying that it's going to be a 50-50 and Hillman is going to get touches. Anderson has just not done anything. And given the opportunity, I mean, you saw Hillman had that 72-yard touchdown run. You take that away yesterday, his yards per carry was about 3 yards per carry. So not that good, but definitely a guy that I think you can target, especially with the running back situation the way it is. Other guys, Duke Johnson, I mean, from the Cleveland Browns. You've seen his touches increase, especially in a PPR league. McCown's going to pass the ball. That's a guy that you can target. And as well, I'm going to say this. This is a deep, deep sleeper, but I'm thinking Christine Michael. And only because you look at that Dallas run game. Dunbar went down late Sunday night. Randall just has not been DeMarco Murray as of last year, and you got McFadden back there. So it's not an all-star running back class back there, but they got an all-star, offensive line. So I'm thinking maybe target Christine Michael, deep leagues, sit on him, lottery ticket. He could pay off for you come midseason.
And if at one point this season you had Devonta Freeman on your fantasy football team, and say you traded him, you'd be an idiot?
Not so happy this week. It's been a rough go for you, Robert. I mean, these past few weeks, it's been rough. The trades have not paid off for you at all.
Brady, traded. Freeman, traded. Derek Oma, thank you for stopping by Inside Access, our fantasy football guru from OC Sports. Thank you for stopping by.
Thanks, Robert.
Let's get ready to go. Sponsored by Supercuts.
And getting ready to go against the Aztecs of San Diego State, Rainbow Warriors' next opponent. They are 2-3. Head coach is Rocky Long, and the Aztecs led by running back Donnell Pumphrey. 23 carries, 124 yards, and a touchdown in their last outing against the Bulldogs. Also got 27 carries and 151 yards from running back Chase Price. Oh, but Pumphrey may be a no-go against Hawaii. Remember this? October 18, 2014, right before halftime, a 39-yard Hail Mary, Hawaii's Ikaika Wuzi connecting with Marcus Kemp. But Hawaii lost that game in lovely San Diego by a final score of 20-10. And that guy is Donnell Pumphrey. He hit Hawaii for 25 carries, 183 yards, and a touchdown. But again, we're getting word he may be a no-go at Aloha Stadium. And let me guess, you're wondering, gee, how does San Diego State get to Hawaii? Would you look at that? Alaska Airlines has an airplane all decked out in Aztec colors. Really?
If Mark Dunkley is watching, Hawaiian Air needs to do one for the University of Hawaii, because you're exactly right. We're flying commercial 41,000 miles. They have a plane, Stephen.
That's why I think their coach's name is great. Rocky Long. That sounds like Hawaii's travel plans.
Rocky and Long.
Have you ever been in a plane with Hawaii colors? Decked out like that?
That's beautiful.
Really? What do you figure? Hawaii against San Diego State, your thoughts?
Well, I was fortunate to go to last year's game, and obviously Eveliko's kickoff return that came back. I thought that was tough, for them to swallow. I thought that was going to break the game open for Hawaii. So this year, going into this game, they definitely, coming off of the first 5, need to show up. I think they need to set the tone early. The defense will be there, being at home and everything. But I think offensively, you'll be at home. And I'm looking, to see Hawaii step out and, put some points up early.
Steven Suh, Hawaii against the Aztecs.
Well, the Aztecs always have great talent, and that's just
the way it is.
Yeah, it's just the way it is. I mean, it's a great place. They're the guys that don't go to USC or UCLA. A lot of them come down to San Diego State. It's great facilities, and the thing about San Diego State's facilities, because they have pro day there, is that it's not just better than Hawaii's facilities. It's like 10 times better, and you can't have that in a league. And that's really a competitive disadvantage, at least in recruiting.
It's been the given. Athletes at Boise State, athletes at San Diego State.
Yeah, and Donnell Pumphrey, to me, coming into the season, was the most explosive player in this conference, because there's no quarterbacks in the western side of this division. But Tyler Irvins from San Jose State may be that. But if this kid is out of the game, Donnell Pumphrey, Hawaii stands a much better chance, because he is their offense, because their quarterback's struggling.
Now, the first couple of games this season for Hawaii, it's been a tough go, especially on the road. Offense has gone, I hate to say it, but they've gone over the continent in scoring. But it's been a much different team at Aloha Stadium. Hawaii beat Colorado. Hawaii beat UC Davis. Colorado gave Oregon a heck of a football game over the weekend. They've got to get that ugly 55-0 taste out of their mouth.
Yeah, and you got to talk about engaging these players, educating them, and empowering them, Robert. And at the same time, the players need to make sure they believe, like, and trust their coaches. But this is homecoming. We as fans cannot give up on this team, because they're 2-3 right now, and that's an optimistic 2-3. So let's support these guys. Let's let them know that we got their backs, because I agree with you. It's going to be a whole different ball game at home.
Hawaii fans, Hawaii players, Hawaii coaches should be ticked off at 55-0. And I'll go fix it.
That's no question. But Robert, mentally, how do you, Stephen and I talked about this, burying the tape in some grass field.
Get rid of it.
Get rid of it, because there's so many bad moments last week. That's not the real Hawaii team.
No.
We have to hope, like you talked about, it's the team that played Colorado. It's the team that played the Aggies. And they got to show up. This is their home. Like Nate said, protect your house.
Go get your swag back. For Rich Miano, for Steven Tsai, for Nate Ilawa, for our entire crew, I'm Robert Kikaula. Thanks for watching Inside Access.
All right, Bobby, you just got back from Boise. Give us an idea of what it was like.
Rarely have so many gone so far for so little.
Bank of Hawaii is proud to sponsor this program. Seriously.
Well, what more can be said than really what Bobby just said? The University of Hawaii has struggled on the road, to say the least, and those struggles continued at Boise, Idaho. The final verdict, 55-0, and the struggles were in just about every aspect of Hawaii's offensive game. Now they have still 3 games on the road recorded, 0 points recorded. Hawaii falling to 2-3 after this decision. And in total yardage, well, Boise State went for 554 as a squad. Hawaii went for 170, including failing to reach the century mark in passing for the second time this season. So I open it up for you, Bobby, because you were doing the game on ESPN 1420. You were at the game watching them perform on that blue turf. Give us an idea of what went wrong.
I was not expecting Hawaii to win that game. I thought that was going to be maybe a bridge too far at this point of the season, but I didn't expect Hawaii to fail to be competitive. And frankly, that's what we saw. Not only did the offense continue to struggle, unable to find a rhythm, but the defense couldn't get a stop. I mean, it just seemed like everything that could go wrong did go wrong. I guess the only good thing about a game like this is put it behind you.
Sure.
No sense watching a lot of tape on this one because you'll just get depressed. I think they got to just put this back and move on.
Rob, I don't think a lot of people were expecting, again, Hawaii to come out victorious on the road. That wouldn't have been where the smart money was, and yet that performance still left so much to be desired. So why do we feel so disappointed if we weren't necessarily expecting Hawaii to win at Boise?
I think because obviously the way it went down, and I think heading in, there was the fear, if you're a University of Hawaii fan or if you're the University of Hawaii itself, that if you go 3 and out against Wisconsin and Ohio State, they're going to run the ball. And if you're able to at least limit the big play, the clock's going to continue to run and you're going to be able to keep the score relatively down. Knowing that you're going up against Boise State and the offense that they run, you continually go 3 and out, they march down the field, they score, and you look back up, and there's still 12 minutes left in a quarter. So that's the issue, as far as I think everyone kind of saw that this was possible, but thought that, okay, this has to be the week that the University of Hawaii offense gets in some kind of rhythm, get some first downs or something. And when that didn't happen, then the floodgates opened pretty quick.
We know how big confidence is over the course of the season, the ebbs and flows that any team has to go through. So coming off of this game, 0 bye weeks, as we have continued to mention each and every But Seriously show. Now you have homecoming at home with San Diego State. So from a confidence standpoint, you said just wash it away. Is that enough? Can Hawaii look at anything in that game, or is there anything that they can do mentally or emotionally to get back in the right frame of mind as they get ready to continue the season?
Well, one thing is you're at home, and when you're home, I think that you just have to work it, move the chains. I think the improvements now are going to be incremental. Can you get the first downs? Can you get into some kind of a rhythm? And then you get into the injury situation, who's going to be available to play. So there's a couple of moving parts here.
When they came back yesterday, Marcus Kemp, I think, put it in a very interesting way, that after a game like that, 55-0 on the road, a third straight shutout, you can either snap as a team, and it's a good snap, and that means that you figure it out and you move forward, or it's a bad snap, and that things can go even worse and downhill from here. I think that's what we're all going to be looking for in this San Diego State game. Which way do they snap? Is it for the better or for the worse?
Now we asked the question, same page, and that's because of some of the missed connections. Max Wittek was 7 of 24 for 66 yards. He threw 2 interceptions in that game against the Broncos. Now, to be fair, Ikaika Woolsey did fill in the second half, and he didn't fare that much better. 4 of 14 for 22 yards and a pick. But after the game, Norm Chow said that Max Wittick's left knee was heavily taped, was swollen, reason why he didn't play in the second half, and it did impact his play out there. Did you see that in the performance of Max Wittick, Bobby?
Well, you couldn't tell exactly how much of it was injury related, and clearly he wasn't himself. He is usually far more accurate than what we saw in that game against Boise. And you wonder, is he getting a little gun shy because he doesn't have much protection? I mean, certainly the running backs have not been able to do their part in keeping opposing defenses off of him. But at some point, when you get repeated, this is his second 7 for 24 performance, questions are going to naturally be asked.
And you have to wonder, I mean, they were so off target that you have to wonder, were the receivers even in the right spot?
Yeah.
What was the issue there? I mean, was he really overthrowing players that badly? Was he really throwing on the opposite shoulders? Or were the receivers getting bumped off of their routes? Were they running wrong routes? And I think it looked so bad that you almost have to wonder if that was the issue and it's not Max Wittick being inaccurate, because really, if it's him being inaccurate, that knee or whatever it is really hindering him, because he did not look like the Max Wittick that we saw through training camp or even through the first 3-4 games of the season.
Yeah, can I give you props for your line this past weekend? Remember, we were talking about Max Wittick and the suggestion of one of the Big Ten Network announcers last week describing him as a seamstress. I was texting with Rob this past weekend, and he said, yeah, maybe more like seams stressed.
Maybe
that
we
was
misheard
sort
it.
of
Maybe we
how it
misheard
was,
it.
at least against Boise State, for sure. We don't know at the time of this taping the seriousness yet of the knee and how much that'll linger, but Bobby, how should the coaching staff handle this Max Wittick injury?
Well, I think what they're going to do is try to gauge his readiness to play. And you're going to have to do that by Tuesday. Clearly, that's a Tuesday decision, I think, of game week. And then if not, the reps are going to basically go to Ikaika Woolsey. I don't think you have much of a choice. San Diego State is so important that you need, in terms of Hawaii's season and what their goals are, that you really have to have a quarterback that's ready to go. And that didn't happen last week, obviously.
And the thing you got to remember, no matter who the quarterback is, if the University of Hawaii can't run the football, that quarterback's going to have a tough time.
Seems stressed. This guy. On to the Aztecs. So it's San Diego State at Aloha Stadium for homecoming. So obviously Hawaii going to be very happy to be returning to the home state. What to expect here against the Aztecs?
Well, first of all, Hawaii's always done better against San Diego State when they're home than they have done on the road. One problem is Donnell Pumphrey, the running back, he's terrific. He is probably the best running back, I think, in the conference. And yet, they've struggled offensively, and they have struggled with quarterback play. I think surprisingly, people thought they'd be pretty good on offense, and that's not been a strength for them. In fact, I don't know who's the most underachieving team on that side. Is it San Diego State, who's just not as good as expected, or is it Fresno State, who's been really a problem? But certainly they're in the conversation. So I think Hawaii needs to get out really fast in this one.
I think Hawaii needs to hope that Pumphrey's high ankle sprain that he suffered in this past weekend's game